What is up, AFC North football fans, and welcome into another edition of the AFC North Roundtable. The preseason in the books, the 53-man rosters locked in, and 1 week from tomorrow, we officially have NFL football back in a regular season capacity. The season kicks off tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, I should say. I wish it was kicking off tomorrow. Thursday Night Football a week from tomorrow, and then all four teams within this division get after it a week from this weekend. We made it, folks. We're almost at the finish line. We're excited to spend the season with you, and we can't thank you enough for spending the offseason with us. On tonight's episode, we will dive into those 53-man rosters, talk about surprises, things that stood out, shocking names that didn't make the team or did make the team. We'll dive into all of it. And then on the back half of the episode, another classic AFC North debate. We have to lock our predictions in, and that's what we'll do on this episode. We will have our record predictions coming your way for all four teams in the AFC North, including the top four teams, 1 through 4, in the division. So that's coming your way tonight on the AFC North Roundtable. Without further ado, let's bring in the fellas, Sam, Zay, Mark, and I would say Zim's out there trying to hunt down Trey Hendrickson, but the Bengals found him. Even if it's just for a year, they found him $30 million nonetheless. So I don't know where Zim is, but hopefully he joins us to talk about that contract and his Bengals at some point this evening. But for now, it's you three beautiful gentlemen, and I'm happy to be here with you. And as I mentioned, a week from tomorrow, football kicks off. Next week's episode, a week from tonight, we will be having our preview show where we're diving into the week 1 games. I can't wait, but we have some business to take care of tonight. And that, of course, is these 53-man roster, how they ended up coming to fruition, how they're looking for each one of your guys' teams. We got to start with the Cleveland Browns, of course, because they have been highlighted all offseason here in terms of their quarterback room. It is a huge quarterback room, and it got smaller this past week. Tyler Huntley, Sam, stoked to have him back in Baltimore. He moves on from Cleveland. But the big story, Shedeur Sanders not looking good in preseason game 3. That might have been the tipping point that allowed him to move backward or potentially stay where he already was. Dillon Gabriel wins the backup quarterback job behind Joe Flacco. Additionally, Kenny Pickett moved on by the Browns as well. He's now a Las Vegas Raider. So major shakeups in that quarterback room. Zay, I got to start with talking about the Shedeur Sanders situation. Talk to me about what you saw over the weekend, if that was the indicating factor as to why he got moved down the depth chart in many people's eyes. And then also talk to me about Dillon Gabriel being your backup quarterback. Did you see this coming, and are you okay with it? Is the Browns fan base okay with it?
Well, I've been predicting all along, if there was a guy that was going to get traded, it was definitely going to be Kenny Pickett. It just made the most sense, especially after the Joe Flacco signing. I think after seeing Dillon Gabriel play those 2 preseason games, you kind of understand now why they love the kid so much. He can run Kevin Stefanski's offense exactly how he wants it. His 2-minute drive was a chef's kiss. It was a thing of beauty. I can't even hate on it. I was sitting there in that situation just like, this is a situation where Kevin Stefanski wants 3. If 7 falls into your lap, it falls into your lap. And I mean, this guy came out and just started hitting the sidelines, just looked so calm, so poised. So him being the backup is fine. Obviously, we already knew that he was going to get the nod over Shedeur. There was really nothing Shedeur could do, I think, to get the nod over Dillon. I think they like Dillon that much. I kind of was sitting here coming up with a theory that, like, I feel like almost it was the quarterback competition that they were referring to was pretty much for the backup position. If Kenny was going to get any type of job, it was going to be as the number 2, just for the simple fact that you put together the pieces to the puzzle. You bring in Joe Flacco, and then you have a Myles Garrett interview before he gets signed where it's like he kind of has an idea who the quarterback's going to be. There's no way that they were telling him that Kenny Pickett was going to be that guy. So the second that Flacco came in, sure, he had a shot, but let's be honest, it was never really a quarterback competition with Flacco being here. He was always going to be the guy moving forward. So in terms of the Shedeur stuff, I think it's going to be one of those things where a lot of things are going to have to sway his way in order for him to hit the field, because before we see him, we're definitely going to see the kid out of Hawaii.
As you finish up talking about Shedeur Sanders, I got to bring in Zim Moneybags Who Day, rocking the shades.
He's a bit late, mate. Got him.
And I'm imagining he's rocking the shades because his main man, Trey Hendrickson, got paid. We'll touch on that later on in the show. But I want to keep talking about this quarterback situation in Cleveland. Zay, I need you to touch on this a little bit for me because the discourse surrounding Shedeur this past weekend was wild. Obviously, the internet went nuts after what we saw from Shedeur in that game. Took 5 sacks, did not look great, and it just felt like everybody was rushing to his defense. You look at Kevin Stefanski's situation and how it currently sits. Where are you at on this whole thing? How do you view how Shedeur Sanders has been handled? Do you think it's too much to have surrounding the organization for a third-string quarterback? What ends up happening here, especially with Dillon Gabriel now being solidified as quarterback too?
Yeah, you kind of felt like TJ Houshmandzadeh was on the nightcap, and they talked about it where he said they don't want their backup quarterback to be a distraction. If Shedeur Sanders is your number 2 quarterback, that is a nightmare waiting to happen. And we've seen this organization try to steer away from that type of controversy, and that being last year. Everybody keeps saying, well, why didn't they bring back Joe Flacco last year? They didn't even offer Joe Flacco a contract last year, and that was because they were catering this entire offense to Joe Flacco. Or to Deshaun Watson. So they definitely didn't want to go into this whole week 1 and have Shedeur Sanders be sitting there at the number 2 spot. And every time Joe Flacco throws an interception, you hear the Shedeur chants go through the crowd. So I definitely think that they were skeptical of that. But the big thing in all of this is Dillon Gabriel is exactly what Kevin Stefanski wanted. And I think the pressure, like we talked about hot seats and stuff to that, he's not on a hot seat yet, but if this record starts to go south in these first 6 weeks, by week 8, 9, we're going to be looking at Dillon Gabriel. And then, obviously from there, how does he play? How short is the leash? That's when that temperature and that PR nightmare could start to creep up with people wanting to see Shedeur.
It'd be interesting if we do see Dillon Gabriel. Do you think fans will be as willing to pound the table for a quarterback change in terms of wanting to move off of Flacco to Dillon Gabriel? Do you think that that's still going to be there, or would it have been far worse if Shedeur Sanders was in that QB2 position? Do you still think we see that with Dillon Gabriel?
Of course you're going to see it because you need to see what, if you're going to take a quarterback next year. They have to see that's where it's a weird situation for them to be in, because Dillon Gabriel has to really come in and light it up. Because you got to know if he's going to be the guy moving forward. Are you going to take one of these first round picks, 2 of them that you have next year, and take a quarterback? So they need to see if Dillon's that guy. And if he is, now you're talking about a potential ransom with one of these picks, depending on where it lands. So this is a big year for this quarterback room, especially if we play the hypothetical, the Browns go 3-14. Is Kevin Stefanski even going to be back? So there's a lot at stake in terms for just this short season, because I don't see a world where Kevin Stefanski can be retained if we go 3-14. And then at that point, that's your sell to the next coach. You've got 2 first-round picks. You get your pick at a quarterback, so forth and so on.
Sam, we had all thought for the most part the Browns were going to keep 4. They wound up not keeping 4 in that 53. They keep 3 quarterbacks. What's your whole take on how the Browns ended up addressing the quarterback room before the start of the season here?
I agree with Zay. I think this is as good as it was going to get. You have to trade one of those guys. Keeping 3s way more acceptable for me than keeping 4. Again, also agree with Zay. I don't think either of these quarterbacks are going to be the quarterbacks in 2026. I think they're going to use that first round pick to get a guy. The Shedeur Sanders talk, I agree with the side that say, well, he shouldn't be the number 2 quarterback, because you started to see some of the things that plagued him in Colorado, his indecisiveness, his inability to, deal with pressure coming at him. Obviously, he was playing with the 3s and the 4s in some aspects. So I get why he played that way, but you started to see the ugliness of his game come out. And that's something, all those things that we saw from Shedeur that we didn't like, those things could be fixed with coaching. So I think it's good that he doesn't start right away. I think coaching-wise, in a year or 2, I think he has the arm talent to be a decent quarterback. But to his point, I don't know if Stefanski comes back next year. And if that's the case, any coach coming in will want a new quarterback. So I think that the Browns are in a tough situation, but also a good situation because they have the draft capital to take that next step next year.
Mark, the Browns moved off your main man, Kenny Pickett. They're down to just 3 quarterbacks now. They had what felt like 100 just a couple of weeks ago. What do you make of the situation in Cleveland?
I think what they have to do, and this, I know this, to me, what makes the most sense, and they really just have to start winning with Joe Flacco for the Sanders things to work out, to give him time to prep to be a quarterback. Otherwise, as each and every year that I've been a fan of the 23 years, the Browns will chuck him in way too early, and then they'll make him look bad. Next minute, they'll trade him away. So I think they're just going to go with, now Flacco can win games. I think he can win some games, but he needs to have less stress on the quarterback situation. I don't know about having two rookies being backup QB2 and backup QB3, but obviously that's the way to go. And then that's what, what Zay said. They're happy with, Gabriel first. I haven't been watching too much tape on them or whatever. Been seeing highlights and stuff like that over the internet. But for me to break the noise down is clean and simple. And we're in the preseason, or we're like almost in regular season. Thank fuck. Because it's getting a bit tiresome, all this Shador's talk, and we're going to hear Zim Moneybag talk about all this contract when it should have been done 6 months ago. I'm ready for the regular season, but to be very honest, I think they just got to win. If you win with Flacco, that helps a lot of things, and then you can sneak Shador Sanders, but you can get him, coached up and ready to go next year or the year after. But if they don't win, what happens again every single year? And like Zay says, he thinks my Steelers are doing it, which they're not, but he thinks we are. Is the Browns will go to another quarterback, and then what we'll hear in October will be 26 Pittsburgh, the Cleveland Browns select number 1 overall quarterback, and we do it all again, and we come back here next year and do it again. I'm sick of it.
You're
I'm sick
one
of
and a
Browns,
half
mate. I'm sick of them.
Listen, you are a sack and a half away from changing another jersey on that quarterback wall. All right, relax.
Hey, you got the second oldest quarterback than me, mate. I'm 41. You're 40. We got it. So the
at least ours got that. At least ours got swag.
The AARP quarterback room resides in the AFC North. That is for sure. Zim, Kenny Pickett, he's a Raider. Tyler Huntley, he's a Raven. 3 quarterbacks remain in Cleveland. What do you make of Dylan Gabriel being QB2, Shedeur Sanders QB3?
Sound like it ain't a lot of money.
Wait.
Hold on a second.
Wait. Are you a different person? Who is this?
I'm acting different these days.
This is Moneybags, a 1-year extension. Trey Hendrickson will be in the same spot this time next year, but he's a different man for now, is Zim. We'll get to that in a second. But let's talk to Moneybags here. Moneybags, elaborate a little bit more. What do you mean by that? Not enough money. Talk to me.
I just feel like, a couple of weeks ago, they was throwing up rollies and boys are third stringers. Don't sound like the money's over there. Sound like the bread's over here in Cincy. That's all I'm saying. Don't sound like a lot of money to me. Zay told me the bag was there. I don't see no baguettes or no bread.
That sound like hush money to me, y'all. If you know what real money look like, you see happy players over here in Atlanta. Yeah, they had to here, Trey. Here's $30 million for 1 year. We'll address it again tomorrow. That's hush money. That's hush money. At least our players get paid.
Sound like our players got paid and you just ain't got it.
No, it sounds like they got put in a corner and said, take it or leave it.
Hey, if you ain't got the money on your card and you decline, just there.
This news is different.
By the way, Zay, King of the Seas is not bought in on Dylan Gabriel. He thinks he's buns. So saith seeking King of the Seas.
Love it,
I don't think, here's the thing. He's a 3rd round pick, right? I think he's Brock Purdy ceiling. He's going to run the offense. He going to manage it. And I still need to see what the adjustments look like, but he was making some good. He looked very, very comfortable in the Kevin Stefanski offense.
Well, according to a couple of crazy things I read online today, apparently Brock Purdy is the next making to Tom Brady. So you could be in good hands if Dylan Gabriel ends up taking over as quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. All right, let's move on to the next big topic of conversation in the AFC North before we touch on the 53-man rosters, and that has a lot to do with Zim, and I emphasize Moneybags who day. The money dropped off to Trey Hendrickson's doorstep, but it was only for a year. Do not get Trey Hendrickson under a multi-year deal. This was essentially a raise, if you will, a $14 million raise in 2025 to bring Trey Hendrickson's number to $30 million for the upcoming season. He will be a free agent this time next year. So you could argue that the can has been kicked down the road. I got a feeling Zim feels differently about that. But talk to me, Zim. At the very minimum here, Trey Hendrickson under contract, nothing to worry about in terms of having him out on the field this season. But are you satisfied with this contract? Are you satisfied with the deal that got done? And do you think this is going to be the same issue again this time next year?
Initially, I did. But it's crazy that now we're talking and having a conversation about, are you satisfied with the deal? For the last year, it's been, are they going to pay him? They don't got the money. I just feel as though that's a little bit of a goalpost move. That's a goalpost move right there. A little bit, right? Because I came on this show just a week ago, and y'all told me that he wasn't going to get paid. Got to figure out how he was going to play in the 2025 season. Trey Hendrickson's a Bengal. Trey Hendrickson was at practice. Trey Hendrickson got paid. The other thing that I found alarming now that we go to the goalpost move is I feel like we're talking about what's going to happen next year instead of focusing on right now. But we could talk about next year. The Bengals added a void year onto the deal. So now his cap hit, if we were to franchise tag him the following year, which he understands is a possibility. Why is that important? Because then he would get $35 million guaranteed. And why is that important? That will make him the 8th highest player in the NFL, essentially giving Trey Hendrickson a 2-year deal for $65 million. So this notion that he's going to be a free agent, not happening. The only way that happens is if bro doesn't play well. And if he doesn't play well, guess what? Bye-bye. I saved my $35 million. It goes right back to whatever position I want. So y'all can try to swing it however you want to swing it, but the Bengals are in control, and the Bengals made it happen. All these shows that I've done, it was y'all weren't going to pay T. You weren't going to pay Jamar. You weren't going to pay all that. And now that they're paid, there's a goalpost move. I don't like that. I think we need to focus on getting credit where credit is due. Because that's not even the only people that they signed. There's also signed Mike Gesicki, Noah Fant, and today, Dalton Reisner. It's a lot of motion going on, but a lot of coping around the situation. I don't like that.
So the rest of those guys, though, they got legitimate contract extensions, right? I mean, Trey Hendrickson could have went and played this year, similar to how he's going to go and play this year, just for less money. At the end of the day, I know you're talking about a franchise tag situation. Do you think a conversation was had where the Bengals flat out said, we're going to do this, and we're going to franchise tag you next year? You don't think Trey Hendrickson's going to want to shop the market if he has another year this year like he did last year? Don't you think he's going to want to look around for more guaranteed money over a longer period of time than just potentially getting franchise tagged the season after this one?
I mean, he could want to, but he doesn't have a choice.
I'm trying to understand how I'm trying to understand how this is beneficial to Trey Hendrickson is all. I'm trying to understand how he's satisfied with this. I understand what you're saying. The Bengals can do whatever they want, but I'm trying to understand his mindset.
Because he retiring next year because they playing 30.
I feel like everybody should focus on what the Bengals are about to do. Why can't we focus on why the Bengals are about to do good? Why are we focusing on what makes Trey Hendrickson happy? Like, I didn't come on here and say what will make James Cook happy. I just came on and said, y'all probably get the deal done and you get it done or you don't. Why is it the Bengals have to focus on the player being happy? We can't be happy that the Bengals got their player, son?
No, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just trying to get an idea of the mindset behind the move here, because in some ways it does feel like a bit of a Band-Aid.
I feel like it's a compromise. He's 31 years old. We're not guaranteeing him. We're not Von Miller in this situation. Sorry about my dog.
You hear your dog talking that talk. He tired of the bullshit. You talking like he like that. You talking shit. Stop.
Yeah, Seeking's coming in. He's saying even the dog barking knows the Bengals are cheeks. That's what Seeking's got to say.
The craziest thing about that is you've never read a comment that wasn't a super chat ever before.
I'm sorry. I had to justify the dog barking somehow.
I want all the Bengals fans that are watching this to just notice how the goalpost moves. As soon as you do what they said you couldn't do, now we're focusing on what will make Trey Hendrickson happy. How about the Bengals are happy? The Bengals got Trey Hendrickson out there. The Bengals signed Dalton Risner today. It's not a Band-Aid. I just told you, if we were to tag him, he would be the 8th highest player in the whole National Football League. There is no player alive that will walk away from $35 million in his face. If he doesn't perform well, then he won't be a Bengal. I'm going to take the $35 million and go do what I want to do with it. Why would Trey Hendrickson not be happy being one of the highest paid players in the National Football League?
I'm just wondering in terms of the long-term situation here. And I know you make a good point in terms of the age. I understand that. I'm just looking at it from his side of things. The money's good now, wondering what it'll be like down the line. And once again, you do make another good point about Von Miller. You don't want to end up in a situation like Buffalo was, where you pay money for a guy that's on the way out the door and you don't end up getting value on it. But I'm just trying to get an idea. And really, that's all I'm trying to do, is trying to get an idea of what the mindset was and how they were able to reach this agreement. Because I could see Trey Hendrickson not being fully satisfied with this, right? I could see him going to the table, wanting more years on this deal. That way he knows his future is locked up to a certain extent and not getting that. I understand why you're happy, right? Trey Hendrickson's playing this year. I get that. You can tag him next year. I'm just wondering if he's going to wind up being disgruntled again next year, and you're going to have to deal with this whole situation again, going on show after show, trying to talk down people in terms of how the Bengals do business.
Let me ask you this. If you were offered, or any of the players that you're talking about were offered $35 million to play football, do you think that they would be unhappy playing with a fully guaranteed $35 million? Would, at that point that you're talking about, would then be a $65 million guarantee in extension to the extension that we just gave them in 2023? It's a compromise. You say that you want second-year guarantees, Trey Hendrickson. I believe in you. Tell one of those teams to give us a first-round pick. We just did 100 shows. Nobody had a first-round pick because they're saying the same thing I'm saying. What if he doesn't get 15 sacks? Why would I pay for the rights to get a 31-year-old player that doesn't give me 15-plus sacks? Then I'll be looking stupid. Y'all would then come on the show and be like, well, why did y'all give him all that money guaranteed? Like, you want us to be like the Browns and just guarantee a whole bunch of money and come into the season with $80 million in dead cap? Not the Bengals. The Bengals are the 30th in the NFL in dead cap. We don't pay people that are not on our roster. That's just the way it is.
I want to work it around the table here. I want to get some interest, or I want to get some ideas.
No money.
And Sam, I'm going to let you rebuttal to all these guys when they're done, but I want to get some perspective because it is an interesting contract. It's not often you see one of the best players in the league just get a 1-year deal like this. This is why I think it's very interesting, and I'm glad you're kind of shining your perspective on it because I think you make some good points here. In terms of the Bengals spot of things, right, I think that they're in a good spot, right? You get him paid for this year. You can tag him next year. It just felt like for him holding out as long as he did, I would have thought he was looking for a bit more. But then again, like you said, tough to turn down $35 million when it's guaranteed in your face.
He turned down a 3-year, $95 million contract. That's the other part that everybody's leaving out.
The Bengals had offered that.
Yes, reported by Diana Rossini and others. 3-year, $95 million. But it lacked guarantees in year 2.
So that really was the big holdup here. It was the guarantee, not necessarily the duration of the contract.
So Trey Hendrickson essentially bet on himself. He says that I'm going to go ball out, right? And then I'm going to come back the following year. Okay. He didn't deny a no tag. They asked him about the tag today in the locker room. He said, I know that that's a possibility. That's a very high tag. The cap going up, I'll be getting paid more than $35 million.
Zay, I'm going to swing it up to you. What are your thoughts on this deal? Say this was Myles Garrett. Same situation. The Browns end up extending him this offseason. Would you have been happy with how this was handled if it were Myles Garrett?
This situation is way different because Myles Garrett was dragging us through the mud, whereas Trey Hendrickson is on the sideline and participating and going along with it. So I think it's a different scenario in terms of that, but I don't even know how I would feel because of that. How he did it. So I'm still trying to patch up the wounds from, Radio Row. You know what I mean? So I couldn't give you a good perspective on that.
But what do you make of this deal then? Myles Garrett aside, what do you make of what the Bengals did here from both sides? From what the Bengals got out of it, what Trey Hendrickson got out of it?
This is all look. From the outside looking in, he talking about his money. All of this looks like hush money. You played hardball with all of your superstars. That is something that when you think back and when this contract over, this player not gonna give you the good grace to maybe take a better deal for you to make things where he gonna go elsewhere. If I'm looking from that perspective, if I was a Bengals fan, that's how I would feel. So with this getting the 1-year deal, it's like, okay, we got everybody on the band this year. Let's see what it can happen this year. If we got a good shot at the window, this is gonna be our best opportunity. We're gonna go all in on this year. Because what was T. Higgins' contract? How many years was that?
3.
Mark, what do you think about the deal with Trey Hendrickson? $30 million for a year this upcoming season.
In some sense, it's a bit like, I guess, so basically they gave him a $14 million contract extension to give him guaranteed money for this year. He's playing for this year. In some sense, in the NFL and how we give so much more, we do big contracts and sometimes they get guaranteed money year after year, or they don't get year after year. In some sense, when I think about it, it makes sense for the NFL to do this kind of stuff. The player gets paid. The team is playing for, the team has that player for 1 year and they do it next year because the league is like year to year. So I guess it's going to work out for both parties. But like Zay's maybe saying is he could maybe walk away next year because they haven't got him under contract. All I know is this: the Bengals had to sign him somehow, some way. It might have been better to do a long-term deal. But I think what I get from Zim is, and I'm not too good with the money part, this, and this, whatever it is. But what I get is that they basically said, here's your guaranteed money, and we want you for this year. See how it goes, and maybe we'll renegotiate next year. Now, I have my problems with, or not my problems, but the Steelers had problems with Cameron Hayward and that deal, where he took a less deal, and then now he was trying to hold in for a little bit to ask for more money on the same contract that he already did. So, to me, these contracts get a bit out of order, man. And like the Browns one time gave Deshaun Watson $250 million. So it's all different. It just depends how the teams go after it. But I don't see anything wrong with it in a football sense. You got to pay the man because he played tremendous football and he's going to help you win games at the end of the day.
Sam, what about you? Your thoughts on the Trey Hendrickson deal?
A few things. One, if I was a player, I would never want to play for the Bengals. Like, this is just showing me you don't care about your superstars. If I'm a superstar, I'm not going to the Bengals because I see how you treat us. Two, Trey Hendrickson is an idiot. There's no way. And God's green earth, I am signing a contract that just pays me for a year. The reason why these 30-year-old players want contracts is they want security. They want the longevity. Zim just mentioned it. If he does poorly this year, they're not going to sign him to a franchise tag. They're going to say, see ya. And he's going to get like a $10 million, $12 million contract. I mean, probably not that low. But the point is, he's not going to get the money he's seeking that he was seeking this year. So I think it's just crazy that Trey Hendrickson signed that contract. Now, for the Bengals, bravo. This is literally the best deal that the Bengals could get. This is top-tier decision-making by the Bengals. I mean, you get a guy, you give him a few extra million, make him happy, you keep him. You don't have any of the risk associated with him having the poor season that you think a 30-plus-year-old pass rusher of his caliber could have. And if he plays well, just tag him. Just tag him, give him the money that he wanted anyway. And you have the void years to prevent the cap hit from hitting you as bad as it would and getting to rebuild your roster anyway. So for the Bengals, it's huge. It's a huge deal because you get your premier pass rusher, you get your 2 receivers anyway, and you get the first round pass rusher that was, being maligned earlier in the offseason anyway. So as far as the offseason goes, this Trey Hendrickson business, the Bengals did a great job. For Hendrickson, though, it's just a poor decision. You're betting on yourself, but that is a risk that I, for one, would not take.
Yeah, I'm with you. Despite getting shredded in the comment section the last 10 minutes, I was more looking at the perspective of Trey Hendrickson, right? I think the Bengals, why wouldn't you sign up for this? You got Trey Hendrickson playing this year. You have the option to tag him should he have another great year like he did last year. My whole question on this was, if you hold out this long up until this point, like you just kind of mentioned, Sam, why settle? This is where I wonder, Zim, and maybe you can shine some light on this. Do you think when they allowed him to kind of go and look around, do you think the grass wasn't greener? And maybe this is why Trey Hendrickson wound up doing what he did?
I came on the show. It's like y'all don't listen to me.
Let sunglasses on.
Y'all don't listen to me. Like, this is the nature of the NFL. Terry McLaurin deal is eerily similar, just structured. Like, y'all got to really look into this stuff. I think what's happening unconsciously is that you hear Bengals cheap. You can't name me a Bengals star that left the Bengals in the last 30 years of football. Jesse Bates is a safety. He's not a star player. Carson Palmer's of the world, all these guys, they stay because Joe Burrow has guarantees that are insane, right? Jamar Chase has. So like this notion that they're cheap and they don't keep players is eerily false. It's the reason why I'm on the show. It's to educate people on different topics like this. Trey Hendrickson didn't have any options because the part that you guys are leaving off, the most important part, is the Bengals got out in front of the deal in 2023. Trey Hendrickson was coming off his worst season in 2022. This is the part that they never tell you on ESPN. We then blessed him with a contract at the time that was a good contract. That was just 2 years ago. That was the extension. But then the market boom, Trey also went crazy as well too. I didn't have to give him anything. I could have made him Le'Veon Bell. I could have made him Chris Jones. I could have made him do all of that and told him, take your $16 million and just go sit. The Bengals then came back and gave him a pay raise that they didn't even have to give him. Why? Because the 3-year for $95 million that we offered him, he said no. Why would you feel sorry for Trey Hendrickson? You should feel sorry that his agent is stupid and didn't take that deal. You should be looking at this like this is a cook fest because the Bengals did every goddamn thing that we said that they weren't going to do. And that's the point. It's not about Trey Hendrick's feelings. It's not about his vacation. It's not about his car. It's not about any of that shit. It's about the goddamn Bengals cooking up shit this whole
right.
And
get him, Zim.
We're
get him.
Get him,
man.
Get him, Zim.
Anything about Trey Hendrick's feelings?
Hold him, Mr. Playoffs. Get him, Zim.
Tell him to go take the 3-year, $95 million, and then everybody else that has to play the Bengals, line it the fuck up. And stop projecting how the Bengals won't have Trey Hendrickson. Because guess what? He's a goddamn Bengal. And that's what this is all about. That's why I'm here. That's why they hate me. Because everything that you have been conditioned to think about the Bengals is false. And then I just came on and told you he had no options. He shouldn't have signed the deal in 2023. He signed it. He fucked up. And now he's here. He got a pay raise. Yes, $30 million guaranteed. The next year, if he performs well, and this is the other thing, if he's so good, how come nobody sent him a first? We gave him 2 opportunities to go get a trade and go see the market. Everybody felt the same way that the Bengals felt. I could give him this money, but I don't think that this dude is going to give me 15 plus sacks the following year. Why do y'all feel sorry for that? Only because you unconsciously don't want to see the Bengals do what I'm saying that they're going to do. It's just life, bro. When y'all sign whoever you sign, like Kyle Hamilton, I don't come on the show and be like, how are y'all boys going to sign Kyle Hamilton? You got Leonard Mom, you got Trey J. I just say, line that shit up. I'm from the North. You see what I'm saying? And this is 2 years of T. Higgins and all that shit. Line it up. Fuck them contracts. We're signed and sealed. What do y'all want to do? That's where we're at.
I love it.
Just wanted to let that breathe for a second. I'm just going to take a beat, let it breathe. At the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson, he's going to be out on the field. The Bengals desperately need him on this defense. He's going to be out there. He's going to be ready to rock. This is brand new news, by the way. I actually wasn't aware of the 3-year, $95 million offer that was reported by Diana Rossini. So that does make things interesting. It makes you wonder what the conversation was behind the scenes with the agent, Trey Hendrickson, why that was moved off of, why this deal was the one that they wound up going with. Maybe ultimately the guaranteed money ended up being better. It is interesting, but it does seem as though the cards are in the Bengals' hands, and that's what they're looking for, especially within these next 2 years in the window in which they are in. We got 2 contrary super chats coming in. One from Seeking King of the Seas. He's saying the Bengals ain't make the playoffs happen, or Bengals ain't make the playoffs happen last season. Trying to. They didn't make it last year. That is correct.
Make it.
Are we inferring they're not making it again this year? Is that what I'm reading here?
Yep. Definitely.
All right. Okay. Well, we got somebody coming in and backing you up, by the way, Zim. That's Hippie Profit. Chase paid. T paid. McGritty paid. Trey paid. Fenton Reisner brought in. Trey wanted year 2 guarantees. Franchise tag is estimated to be $35 million guaranteed in 26. Before we move off this topic, Zim, real quick, obviously the bar is so high for Trey Hendrickson. To say he has to go in and lead the league in sacks by a substantial amount in order to get that franchise tag again, that might be a high bar, maybe too high of a bar. What does a good year look like to you where Cincinnati sits there and says, yep, that's what we needed to see, franchise tag, or maybe even more?
I think it's 12 plus sacks, then the conversation, of the tag comes about. And if it's not that, then I think somebody will give him 2 years guaranteed at 31, 32 years old, probably a shitty team, Super Bowl aspirations that won't go. And they'll say, I'll give you 20-something plus $1 million. There aren't going to be that many teams that I think will offer that to a guy that's 32 years old that doesn't perform at that level. So, like, this is the nature of the beast of the National Football League. You could be the 49ers and have the highest dead cap in the National Football League and give out a bunch of guarantees and then fall flat on your face and win, 6-7 games last year? Coming into the season with $90-something million guarantee. The Bengals just don't play that way. And you could call it cheap or whatever you want, but everybody got paid. And I just don't have any other answers other than the fact that I can't. I mean, bro, he had a 3-year, $95 million and he didn't like it because it didn't have the guarantees. I think it's a bad decision on his part. I think he should have took it. I think there's very rare that the Bengals do not pay you in the second and third year of those contracts. Very rare. And he would have saw the money, but he didn't take it. And now he bet on himself. And I think he's going to have a really good year. And I think he's going to play for the Bengals again next year. And I think he's going to be happy being the 8th highest paid player in the National Football League, getting $35 million per.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening next year. For this year, he is indeed on the 53-man roster, does get paid. Let's talk about those 53-man rosters real quick. Those were locked in yesterday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Zay, I'll start with you. I don't know if it was a shocker in terms of the quarterback maneuvering. Maybe we all thought they were going to keep 4, but it's not crazy that they didn't in terms of the quarterbacks. Talk to me about what stood out to you, though, with that 53. Any shockers, any guys on the Browns that we need to know about that maybe the general public isn't clued in on?
So there were a couple fan favorites that a lot of people wanted back on the team that didn't make it at first. Caden Davis was one of them, receiver who caught both of Shedeur Sanders' touchdown passes, had a really good camp. Amani Marshall, the undrafted running back that had a couple good preseason games as well and a really good camp. They both got signed back to the practice squad. Julian Okwara, he was a guy that was balling these past 2 preseason games that I thought was going to make the team. He ended up getting cut and came back to the practice squad. We did have an undrafted guy at a Pitt, Donovan McMillan. He's on the team now, which I'm excited for because Andrew Berry always seems to find one undrafted guy that comes in and has some type of impact. And him or that Aiden Huntington kid could be one of those guys. So I'm super excited about them. But other than that, there's really no other big surprises. I think Deontay Johnson, you could probably say that one. Pierre Strong was actually a little bit of a surprise just for the simple fact that they loved them some Pierre Strong. He made it through everything with this regime, and to see him go, which was a little bit shocking, but nothing too out of the ordinary.
Sam, how about you? The Ravens looking to make another run at the AFC Championship, as are the Bengals. We'll get to them in a second, but the Ravens certainly trying to do the same, trying to knock on the doorstep of a Super Bowl once again. Roster is set in place. Any surprises? Anybody stand out that didn't make it, did make it? Talk to me about what they wound up locking in yesterday.
The only thing that was of note was that Jalen Armour-Davis, who was our 4th-round draft pick, was released to make way for Keon Martin and Jay Higgins, our inside linebacker, and Keon Martin, who's our cornerback. So that's the only real big thing. This roster was already locked in, but the Ravens did manage to bring in 3 undrafted free agents, which I think is a big deal considering they were one of the better rosters in the league already prior to training camp. But Jalen Armour-Davis gets claimed by the Tennessee Titans. Bo Braid, former Maryland safety, he was released to make way for Ruben Lowry, who's our other undrafted free agent. So everything's falling into place. Everything looks good right now. It's all about staying healthy. Jay Alexander still nursing a knee injury. He didn't practice. Isaiah Likely, tight end, he's dealing with that foot injury. Doesn't seem like he's going to play in week 1 against the Bills, but they didn't put him on IR, which means they expect him to play in either week 2 or week 3 against the Lions on Monday Night Football. So the roster looks good. Everything looks great. John Harbaugh's already gone on record saying that this is probably his favorite roster, damn good looking roster. He made a mention of that in today's press conference. So full speed ahead to Buffalo.
Yeah, indeed. Sunday Night Football next week. Cannot wait for it. We'll be previewing that game and all the games on next Wednesday's episode. Mark, 53-man roster for the Steelers. Anything stand out to you that we need to know about?
So kind of like the first day, I think the initial one, we were panicking where we saw, well, not panicking, but we saw like 4 quarterbacks on the roster. But now there's been an update today, which is pretty much the Steelers are moving Will Howard and cornerback, a round 7 pick, Dante Kent, to short-term into reserve, and going to open a spot for Chuck Clark, safety, and veteran guard Max Sharping. So the first day was a bit like, what are they doing carrying 4 quarterbacks? Why don't we have 4 safeties on the roster, stuff like that? Why would you put Dante Kent on the roster? But as we know, I think we overreact with a lot of things. But to be honest, not really there's not too many. This guy should have made, that guy shouldn't have made, or whatever. The Steelers did keep all 16 players of their own on the practice squad. And I think a lot of players who played or last year, like DeMarvin Leal, who's like a backup, and there's Beanie Bishop who's backup too. They couldn't make the team on the roster, but they made a chance for the practice squad. But like the other fellas, man, not overly where there was a super shocking thing like, oh my goodness, he should have made it, or I can't believe that. But you give it a few more days. And also, I don't think this will be the same roster going into week 1. I still think they might try and add a receiver or another piece here, depending before we verse the Jets. But nothing too shocking, to be honest. I can't be as excited as him today. I haven't got a contract with $30 million this year.
Yeah, tough to do. Tough to get that excited. I wish somebody would send that over to the round table. $30 million. I think we'd all be excited.
Gotta
right?
put together a couple Maltese.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to get them. They're hard to get.
Yeah. Tim, obviously Trey Hendrickson, the big headline, but what else do we need to know about the Bengals 53-man roster?
I thought today was a good ribbon on the entire offseason of signing Dalton Risner. I think for the first time, Joe Burrow has a legitimate offensive line in front of him. I really do. From the waiver wires or whatever, I don't know if they put any claims for any guys. I would have liked to see them put in a claim for a safety. Didn't see that. Aside from that, nothing. We let a center that we really like, Seth McLaughlin. We had to cut down, but he came back to practice squad. Nobody else really stood out like that. They got pretty good depth behind those guys. Maybe they'll pick like another D tackle or something for depth. But if you really looked at a lot of those cuts, it wasn't really too much out there. I know a lot of our fan base were looking at Cole Strange, but if you would have put in a claim for him, then you would have been inheriting his first round contract. The Browns then probably outbid everybody as far as him being on their practice squad or whatever. And then, probably gave him an opportunity to move up. I don't know if he could have moved up on our team, but that was somebody I was keeping my eye on as well, but not too much. I think that the Dalton Risner one, like you're talking about the Trey one, to me, I think most Bengals fans always thought of Trey Hendrickson as a foregone conclusion. Like, was it of multiple years, maybe, right? But it wasn't. But I never thought for a second, like of course I follow the team. So he's in Cincinnati working out with the guys, talking to the guys on it, like doing everything with the Bengals. Never not said that he didn't want to be, on the Bengals or whatever. So I thought that, but the Dalton Risner one is the big one for Bengals fans today.
Almost that time to dive into our predictions. We're going to be doing record predictions for each team, predictions for 1 through 4 in the division, and then, of course, a Super Bowl prediction. That way we can lock in all those before the season starts next week. But before we do, shout out to my friends over at RotoWire. It's time, folks. You're going to be doing your fantasy drafts within the next week here. You have the preseason done, the 53-man rosters locked in. That means it's time to get your fantasy drafts done before things kick off. You're going to want to use RotoWire in order to have a leg up on the competition. Once you sign up for a premium subscription, you go over to Fantasy NFL Tools, and they have a ton of different assets for you to utilize to make sure that you get that one up on the rest of your opponents in your league. Everything from Draft Assistant, the best mock draft simulator in the game, cheat sheets, rankings, you name it. In addition to fantasy. Also have a ton of great betting tools. I'm sure you're going to be locking in your bets for the games next week and for the whole season, kind of like we're going to do here in just a second. The best way to do that is utilizing the tools that RotoWire has. You're able to shop the best odds across all the major sports books all in one place. That way you make sure you get the best lines and the best odds on those lines. So we'll take a peek right now at the 2025 NFL win totals. And as you can see here, all the teams listed their win totals and the best number you can get for that win total on all the major sports books, including DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, and many more. See the Ravens right there up at the top with an 11.5 over under for their win total. Browns at the bottom, 5.5. We'll see if they can do better than the public perceives. Bengals at 9.5. And I'm looking for those Pittsburgh Steelers on here, and they're a game shy of the Bengals at 8.5. So those are the numbers right now on RotoWire, and that's just one of the many tools you can utilize on RotoWire. Make sure to sign up for a premium subscription via the link in the description below. The promo code is RTS. That'll get you a 15% off discount on that premium subscription over at RotoWire. One more thing, and I mention it every week, and I'm waiting for someone to take advantage. Become a Patreon member. When you become a Patreon member, you get exclusive access to call into the show. So if you want to come on and scream at Zim while he screams at you, you can do that. Become a Patreon member, get on here, join the conversation. Link in the description below. Click that, sign up. You'll have the ability to call into the show. All right, fellas, preseason done. That means we got to lock in our predictions. We got to put up or shut up here. We got to put our money where our mouth is. We got to predict the records for each one of these teams. We got to predict the division standings. We got to predict our Super Bowl matchup. So how we're going to do this, we're going to go in order from first to last in the division last year. So that means we're going to start off with the Baltimore Ravens, who just so happened to start off against my Buffalo Bills in the first Sunday night football game of the year next weekend. Here is the schedule for Baltimore. They kick things off in Buffalo. Then it's a divisional matchup, Sam versus Zay in week 2. A couple of tough games after that. Wow, what a stretch here. Detroit, Kansas City, Houston, and the Rams before the bye. Man, Sam, I don't even think I realized that brutal stretch there right before the bye for your Ravens. So there is the schedule for Baltimore. So, Sam, I ask you, what is in the cards for Baltimore in 2025? Give me your record prediction for the Ravens.
I think the Ravens go 14-3. They always find a way to lose one game or two games that they shouldn't. But this is the best team in football. They're not playing the Philadelphia Eagles in this season, so I'm feeling really confident about that. The only other defensive line that gives me concerns are the Pittsburgh Steelers, which unfortunately the Ravens do see twice. Yeah, I mean, and then the Browns got it too, but I'm just saying the defensive front of the Steelers are for real with Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt. So it is concerning. But I think overall the Ravens do have the best roster in the league, so I don't expect them to go anything less than 14-3.
So you got 14-3 for the Ravens. Any interdivisional losses on that schedule for the Ravens?
Man, I could see them losing to any of them. Literally any of the teams. Yes. I could see them choking against the Browns. I could see them losing the shootout against the Bengals, and I could see them losing the slugfest against the Steelers. But I think the Ravens sweep. I think they go 6-0 in this division this year. I don't think they lose any games. I think they're locked in mentally. I think that Bills loss really hurt them. I think they don't want to take any chances. I think they want to fight for that one seed this year. So I say sweep. Would not be surprised if they lose. If they had to choose one team to lose to in this division, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So you have a clean sweep in the division, potentially a one loss, but for the most part, you're thinking it's going to be walking through this division to 14-3. Real quick, talk to me about that stretch there. The opening schedule here, I just don't know if it gets tougher in the league. Buffalo, interdivisional battle with Cleveland. We know it's never easy going against anybody in this division. Then it's Detroit, KC, Houston, and LA. What do you think the Ravens' record is going into the bye in week 7?
If I see a loss there, the Bills potentially, the Ravens have a good, they mentally, they get overhyped. It reminds me of the Kansas City Chiefs game in week 1. They've taken this game way more seriously than most should take a week 1 game. And it's usually because we're playing a team that beat us in the postseason in week 1. I could see the Bills being a potential loss. I don't see them losing to the Chiefs. especially with Rashee Rice out. They can't really hurt us in the middle of that defense. The Browns are always a tough out. It's going to be a Super Bowl for the Browns because it's our 30th anniversary of leaving the Cleveland area and moving to Baltimore. I'm not worried about the Lions because they're making a makeshift change. The Texans' offensive line is terrible. So I think the Bills are probably the one loss where I can see it happening. If not, they're going to sweep. I'm not worried about that stretch. But the Bills are going to be dangerous because of that emotional factor.
Now, funny enough, I feel the same way about the Ravens. I just don't know why, but I feel like that's an L coming to Buffalo next week. We'll talk more about that next week when we do our prediction. So you got 14-3 for Baltimore. You got a clean sweep in the division. If I do the quick math, that means you got the Ravens winning the AFC North. But give me 2, 3, and 4. How does the rest of the division shake up in your eyes?
Yeah, I think we got this division wrapped up by the end of November. I think it's going to be one of those easy division wins. No offense, boys, but it's looking kind of crazy for you guys right now. I'm very confident this year. I'm sorry. But I got the Browns finishing last, unfortunately, because the Browns are, going through a bit of a transition in their QB. And I'm nervous about this Steelers-Bengals thing. I have 10-7 for both teams, so I don't know how the tiebreakers work. I'll let you guys figure it out. If you get the Aaron Rodgers of the last year in Green Bay, as opposed to the Aaron Rodgers we saw in New York, because remember, the Jets had a better defense than the Steelers last year, all things considered, and the Jets still find a way to lose games. But if we can get the Jets quarterback to do just a little bit more than Russell Wilson did, then the Steelers could be dangerous. The Steelers could be dangerous, and the Bengals, obviously, that offense speaks for themselves. But I go ahead and put the Ravens 1, Steelers 2, Bengals 3, Browns 4.
And lastly, Sam, who's going head-to-head in February in Santa Clara? Give me your Super Bowl matchup.
I think it's going to be Ravens versus Rams. I'm hoping it's not the Eagles because I think the Eagles will beat the Ravens, even with the changes that we've made. Their front four is just still deadly, even though they don't have much of an rush. I'm going to go Ravens, Rams, and the Ravens finally get the job done. Lamar Jackson gets his first trophy.
Ravens fans are praying Sam is right. We have a 14-3 record prediction, 6-0 in the division, an AFC North title, and a Super Bowl appearance. It doesn't get much better than that. Let's see what the rest of this room has to say about things. Let's move to the second place team in the AFC North last year. That was the Pittsburgh Steelers, going into this year, now led by Aaron Rodgers, of course. And here is that Steelers schedule. And it's not nearly as tough of a start compared to the Baltimore Ravens for Pittsburgh. On the road against the Jets, Aaron Rodgers going back to his brief home in New York. Then the Seattle Seahawks, the New England Patriots, a J.J. McCarthy-led Minnesota team. We'll see what they have in the bag this year. Early bye week for you, Mark, in week 5, and then it's a couple of divisional battles off of that bye. So, Mark, you're up. Talk to me. What's in store for Pittsburgh under Aaron Rodgers in 2025?
First of all, I think it's wild that Sam thinks they're going to go 6-0. I think he's forgotten that we play in the AFC North, not AFC, not AFC South. That's quite wild to me. Also, Sam has the Ravens going winning the division for the first time three years in a row since 2002. At least let Zay get one. At least let the Browns get a division win first before you guys get another record. That's not going to happen. Here's how it pans out for me. I think the Steelers, I'm going to have them 12-5 and the Ravens 12-5, but it comes down to the very last week. And you guys will laugh at me. Steelers, old man Rodgers can't be 12-5, but our defense can carry us for sure. We're going to be 12-5, and it's going to come down to the last game versus Steelers versus Ravens in week 18 or whenever that is to win the division. But for that to happen, I need the Ravens to lose those games against the Chiefs, the Bills. They're going to lose 5 games. They are one of the most talented teams, I think, in the NFL. Have a really good chance to win the AFC North. To me, it comes down to those two teams where I need the Ravens to lose 5 so we can have a strong start, and we need to finish better than we did last year, losing 5. So I know people are going to care me in the comments. Don't give a fuck. I started strong last time. We went 3-0, 4-0. You guys were all sweating. So we're going to do it again. All right, we're going to go again. I'm going to go 12-5 for the Steelers to win the AFC North. Ravens be 12-5, but that's the last game comes down to it. And then I've got the Bengals at 10-6 who will make the playoffs because I think they're a pretty talented team, as much as I can't stand them. And then the Browns, I think they're still quite competitive, to be honest. I think the Browns won't be like a Saints team this year or someone like that. They'll go 6-11. They'll try and they'll figure it out to win a few games. And then do they start Sanders at one point?
Mark, you have it pretty competitive at the top, right? Going head-to-head with Sam's Ravens all the way to the end. You have 3 playoff teams in the AFC North. That would certainly be interesting. 12-5 for your Steelers is your prediction, and an AFC North title. And now it's your turn. Super Bowl 60. Who's playing in it? Who are we going to watch in February?
As much as I want to see Aaron Rodgers win the Super Bowl for the Steelers, and even because he beat us, back in the day, right, 20 odd years ago, or whatever it was. I actually think it'll probably someone like maybe Lions. I know this will. I'm not trying to give you a lot of credit, but maybe Lions versus Bills, something like that. The Lions have been around for a bit in the last few playoff years. Can the Bills finally get Josh Allen over the Ravens? Maybe AFC Championship game will be. I think Chiefs are maybe out of it. They'll be in the playoffs, but they're probably out of it. So I'm going to say Lions versus Bills, and Lions win. Feel good storylines.
I was going to say Lions Bills would feed generations of families, 2 organizations who have never won one. That would be something. All right, Zim, 3rd place for your Bengals last year. You're next on the clock. Looking forward to seeing your predictions here. Let's take a look at the Bengals schedule. They open things up with a dogfight against the dog pound in the dog pound. Cleveland, Cincinnati, week 1. Man, I cannot wait to recap that game in a couple of weeks. The start here, though, it's interesting because you don't really know what Minnesota is. We're waiting to see if Denver is going to be as good as everybody thinks they're going to be. Jacksonville, what's the deal with the new head coach? Are they going to be as bad as they've been, or are they finally going to ascend with Trevor Lawrence? Week 10 bye for the Bengals, and then it's Pittsburgh, Mark's Steelers right off of that bye, and then Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore, back to back to back. Man, Zim, that stretch certainly didn't, do you any favors in terms of Goodell lining things up for your Bengals. But obviously last year it didn't go the way that you wanted, but you have the offense to do anything in this league. The question is, can the defense end up holding up their end of the bargain? You feel confident that they'll be able to do so, at least to an extent in which the Bengals will be more competitive. So what does that look like? What is the Bengals schedule, or excuse me, their record rather, this upcoming season?
I just feel like last year 3-4 games was missed off of kicks. I mean, both Ravens games, field goals came into question, could have beat them in overtime. I don't know if people, I think people are fascinated with the fact that they missed the playoffs and they didn't realize that all of those games were really, really close. And then the Bengals offensively had the best offensive roster that they've ever had around Joe Burrow, and it's not even close. Not even close. Defensive-wise, I think a lot of people are sleeping on the changes that they made. And I think that you could go back to a lot of those games last year and you could point to games where the defense actually was pretty good. Against the Giants, the Chiefs, the Patriots, Browns game 1. There are a lot of games last year that they look really good in. But I think that a lot of people get caught in the narrative on they're so bad, they're so bad. There are escalators on certain games that made them look even worse than what they really are. They weren't good, but I think it's kind of getting overblown a little bit. There's a lot of talent on that side of the ball, new defensive coordinator, and some guys that are ready to play. In the emergence, now adding Shamar Stewart to it, I think the Bengals win 12 games.
12 games for the Bengals. Is that good enough to win the AFC North, in your opinion?
That's the hard part. As I was listening to Sam, it's not that I disagree with a lot of stuff that he said. I thought him sweeping the AFC North is insanely wild, especially when you think about he knows we were up 21-7 on him in the 3rd quarter. I'm telling you now, the defense is better than that for sure. And the offense, the defense is not going to be the 30th ranked defense in the National Football League. That is not a hot take.
No, I said what I said was a hot take with the 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sweeping the North is crazy. I don't disagree. I think he has the best roster in the AFC for sure. But the way that this football plays out, and we talk about health and we talk about all these different things, and then I thought Mark brought up a really good point. Winning it 3 times straight has never happened in the AFC North, and so that does make me feel like a certain type of way. I really want to say that they would win 12 games as well. But for the spirit of AFC North Roundtable, I'm going to say that they win 11 games.
So you got the Bengals with 12, eking it out by 1 game over the Ravens. Man, that would be a hell of a finish. How about 3-4 with the Steelers and Browns?
I told Sam in the offseason, as soon as our last show was over, I said I'm going to play you in the AFC Championship. I'm not moving off of that point. I believe that the Steelers will be 9-8. I think that I think they're being the same boat we were in. They go 9-8 and then like barely missed the playoffs or something like that. And then the Browns, the bet from RotoWire, I thought was a good one. The 5.5, I would take the over on that. I think that they win 6 games.
All right, so you got the Bengals, the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns. And now I heard you, and you said you're standing on it. Ravens, Bengals, AFC Championship. So who wins that? Who's playing in the Super Bowl, and who are they playing against?
I think Bengals. I really feel good about this team. Yeah, I feel good. I feel way better about this team than I did, going into all these other off seasons where they didn't do stuff. I think people are not paying attention to the moves that they did make. They're under the radar, but that's what we did before. I think the Bengals win that game when it's all on the line, pressure situation. Joe Burrow in that type of environment, making you throw against them. I got Bengals going. And I just don't think that the Eagles are a roster that anybody in the league can mess with. Think about it. Landry Dickerson goes down and Tyler Steen is like the backup who would start for like 90% of the NFL. Cornerback solid. They used to be weak at linebacker. Now they got Bond and Jahad Campbell. Defensive line, Jordan. Like that Eagles roster is insane. Like that is that might be one of the best rosters that I've ever seen season that I've ever seen in my life. Like that roster is insane.
All right, Zim's got Bengals and Eagles in a showdown in Super Bowl 60. All right, Zay, your Browns last place last year, but let's see if you have something to say about that this upcoming year. Let's take a peek at what Cleveland's schedule looks like. Obviously, they open up against the Bengals, and then it's that showdown against Baltimore. Joe Flacco going to be welcomed back with open arms in that 30th anniversary game, which should be fun. Then it's Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota, basically playing that whole division in a 3-game stretch there. You have Chicago, obviously, later on, but that is a difficult stretch. Your bye is in week 9. So, Zay, I'm interested to hear what you're thinking here. Joe Flacco, the last time he started for these Browns, they made the playoffs. So what's it going to look like in 2025?
Well, time to have some fun. I have to have a stipulation with my record prediction for the Browns. If Joe Flacco plays 17 games, I'm giving us 10 wins. But if he doesn't play 17, and I'm probably leaning closer to that, I still think we find a way to do, at worst, 7 wins. So I'm going to lean towards the 8 and 9 without Joe. But I think if Joe, hot take, get it ready. Joe Flacco's starting this season out 2-0. The storybook is too good. He's gonna spoil the Ravens' little 30th anniversary shindig, and then after that we'll probably lose a couple games in a row. I ain't gonna lie, but I'm gonna go homer just for the sakes of it. Joe Flacco gonna play 17, so give me that 10 marker. You
said 2-0, but you skipped week 1.
You're not needed in this. We already know what time it is. No, here's my prediction for week 1.
What time is it?
Here's my prediction for week 1. I'm a big advocate for history repeats itself. We haven't had a Bengals and Browns showdown like that high 30-point score out game in quite some time. And last time we did have it just so happened to be in that week 1 when it was Carson Palmer and them boys. And it was like, I think y'all beat us. Wasn't that in week 1? It was one of them top weeks. I think we're due for a shootout.
About the Joe Burrow joint where he lit you up in his second NFL game ever.
No. We're not talking about that. We talk about back in the day. So Joe Flacco going to come in. The fever going to be hot the first 2 weeks. 2 opponents he's super familiar with. He going to handle business. And then we probably go on a 2-game losing streak after that, maybe 3. And then Baltimore. I mean, what kind of storybook would you say? Joe Flacco 3-0 to start the year against the AFC North? I like it.
Man, that would be a hell of a statement. Joe Flacco wins against the Bengals and the Ravens to open things up. Man, oh man. So, Zay, you got 10 wins for your Browns. Does that mean a playoff appearance for Cleveland?
See, here's the part where I'm just so torn with, because as much as I want to be a homer, I hate that I have to say what I'm about to say, because he came in here talking about money, glasses, and all this stuff. I think Joe Burrow going to win MVP this year. And I just think that the window for this team never more felt like right now. And just the way that Joe Burrow is carrying himself, it feels so much like he's going to make a big run at this thing. And then obviously the Ravens are the Ravens, so it's so hard to discount them. I don't know if 10-7 is good enough for just because of the division. I'm going to say we get in somehow, some way, but if we miss out, it's only going to be because of the Bengals. I feel like they're just going to be.
Sunglasses back. It's crazy.
Oh,
Shades are back on, and he ain't even outside.
I love Burrow, though. I love Burrow.
Money
the Steelers,
bags.
The Steelers, they going to be last in the division this year. I appreciate you giving us 6-win mark. I really do. But, I'm going to go ahead and say y'all probably only get about 6 wins this year.
So give me your division standings then. You got the Steelers in the basement with 6. Man, that would be a tough end to Aaron Rodgers'
we
career.
have 6?
6 wins. I'm telling you, you are so close to Browns territory. You don't know, and you're in the delusion stage. Eventually, I'm
delusional.
Eventually, you understand that you're delusional, but you're close. It's not you're not quite there yet, but you're on your way. So I'm gonna go. I'll go Ravens 1. Like I gave the reference a couple shows ago. They're the 07-09 Cavaliers. We know what time it is in the regular season. I'm more so worried about the playoffs, what they're gonna do there. I think the Bengals will probably finish second. I'm a big believer in Joe Burrow, and then I'll go Browns 3rd, Steelers last.
I feel like you're using logic with Joe Burrow. For anyone that's thinking that that's crazy, do y'all think that the guy that led the whole entire National Football League in yards, in total yards, if he got to the playoffs, that's an MVP candidate just off that. So, like, anyone that's thinking that's crazy is not using logic. That would make you crazy. Just want to throw that out there.
Zay, I'm going to need you to throw out there your Super Bowl prediction. Who's it going to be in February?
I got a couple. Mark kind of took my thunder. I was going to say Bills, Lions, but I'm going to have fun with this one. I'm going to go storylines. And for some odd reason, I don't know what's going to happen, but the way things have been happening to the Browns lately, Baker Mayfield is going to find his freaking way to a Super Bowl somehow, some way. He don't got a lot of time to do it. I'm going to go 2 number 1 overall picks, battling it out.
Wow.
Joe Burrow, Tampa Bay.
Wow. A Super Bowl nobody saw coming. Wouldn't that be something? Zim's speechless.
So
that's all I want is a matchup like that. Just give me another one like that. Like
that'd be stupid though. I don't want to see Joe Burrow against. I'm going storyline. I'm going way pipe dream here. It's not happening. I genuinely think the Bills. This is their year. As much as I'm a Joe Burrow fan, I do think that Josh Allen has that. He has this weird dog mentality to him that is just it's infectious. And every time I watch him play in the playoffs, I'm a Browns fan, but I want to run through a wall for this guy. He has that type of energy. For Josh Allen, he has that demeanor to him. Like, you know what, guys, get on my back. I'm gonna carry us to this fucking victory. So my realistic.
Does that work in 2025? I don't have the best roster. Just get on my back.
If as long as he don't run into Patrick Mahomes, I can see it happening. Patrick Mahomes is his kryptonite. With that look that he had, that I just go back to the AFC or the AFC Championship game when there was 13 seconds left before the 13 seconds when Kansas City scored.
Why did you have to bring that up?
Bro, Josh Allen was sitting on the sideline and he had this look on his face and it looked just like Bron Game 6 versus Boston. I was like, oh, this dude about to do something crazy. He came down and scored, and then obviously 13 seconds was just too much. But
I think that their roster was so much better then, and their 2023 roster was so much better.
I mean, I don't know. I just like, it is what it is.
I hear what you're saying.
Listen, fellas, we're just a week away from finding out what it's all going to start to look like, and we're going to start to see these predictions come to fruition or be completely forgotten about. That's why we locked them in tonight. This time next week, we're locking in our week 1 predictions. We are previewing week 1 next week, and we cannot wait. Same time, same place, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on the AFC North Roundtable. But for tonight, that's going to do it. On their way out the door, like button if you could, subscribe button if you could, and links in the bio to RotoWire and to become a Patreon member. For Zay, Sam, Mark, and Moneybag Zim, I'm your host, Z-Bot. Thanks so much, as always, for tuning in to the AFC North Roundtable, and we'll see you on the next one.